Hey everyone, Paint Marine here again with a, I guess we'll call this a one of my attempts at coherent thought videos, since it's just going to be kind of a recap of Armies on Parade this last year and kind of how that went and everything. So as naturally happens with just about every Armies on Parade, there's a little bit of controversy that went down. So yeah, we'll get into all that, and it wasn't really a huge big deal, but we'll talk about that a little bit. And I don't know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, like I said, I've kind of gone to the fact that I just want to participate so I can get whatever the free swag is, show off my work, show off, those new different ways of adding effects and different painting things that people may have not considered or thought of, or my conversions and stuff, and give people an opportunity to see that. I think that's kind of an important aspect to the hobby. Because, again, like I said, with this controversy and with just Armies on Parade in general, it's really not a competition, because there's so many factors and so many things that can sway things one way or the other. It's not the most objective competition in the world as far as like judging and all that stuff goes. So when it comes down to it, you win Armies on Parade. Like, some people have complained of it being a popularity contest, it being a whatever. And those things are true sometimes, depending upon, because different managers try to mitigate that as much as possible to try to make it fair. But again, nobody's perfect. The system isn't perfect, at least the way they do it. And unless they brought in some non-partial, non-participating judges, they came in and just judged each one as they went, then we might see something a little bit more fair. So, quick recap, if you haven't seen, I took my salamanders for the first time this year. I didn't have a lot of time to work on the board that I wanted to, otherwise it would have been a lot more elaborate than what it was. But overall I did pretty well. In fact, I took the best themed and best scenic board, and I have it on my little table over there, but I took overall third place. Now, that's pretty good, but the overall third place was kind of a little iffy, if you will. I had a few people come to me later and thought that it was iffy the way that things worked out, and that they felt that overall I actually should have taken first. And then after talking about it more, I was like, you know what? That actually kind of makes sense, because, and here's why. We had Armies on Parade and 40K together. That's the way it's been in the past. Then they kind of switched things up last year, and then they had a different time for Armies on, or Age of Sigmar and 40K. But I just don't think the crowds and the excitement for Age of Sigmar was big enough for them to want to warrant two separate things. And then, so when we did the voting this year, because they still have these other categories, and then they still have the overall first, second, and third, the voting slips were still two separate categories. 40K, best theme, best scenic, best painted, young bloods, first army, and the same thing on the Age of Sigmar side. And at the top, both of them had vote for your favorite. What is your favorite overall board? So 40K and Age of Sigmar. So then they tally up the votes. You win whatever particular category you got the most votes for. But then, because there's only a first, second, third overall, that's where things started kind of getting weird. So you could have went, okay, well, at my particular Games Workshop, we only had, I think, 4. It was 4 total Age of Sigmar boards, and 13 40K entries. So that's a huge difference right there. So you could count up the votes and be like, all right, here's our favorite 40K board and here's our favorite Age of Sigmar board. But there weren't medals. There wasn't a certificate for everybody's overall favorite. And you could have done a first, second, and third for Age of Sigmar, first, second, and third for 40K, and then had the model, or they get a medal. But they didn't do that. They didn't last year either. They just had the categories, although they split up and had different weeks. I feel like they should have gave 2 sets of medals And I know that's a lot of medals. I don't know what the prize support, like how much all that costs, getting all that made for all now 500 stores. But they really, I don't know. I think they should have done that because then you could have had a first, second, third Age of Sigmar, first, second, and third for your 40K. Because in just the 40K realm, I took first as far as everybody's favorite. But that's not how our manager did it, because so you would have thought then, okay, well then there would have been an Age of Sigmar board and they would have got more votes or whatever. So what he did is he decided to just tally up all votes that people got across whatever boards they did. So let me actually, I gotta take a quick second. Okay, sorry, I'm back. All right, so what we decided to do was to tally up all the votes that you received. So, best army, best everything on down, and in every category. And then he gave first place to whoever got the most overall votes, second place for the second most overall votes, and third to the most overall votes, no matter what category you're in, as far as like 40K or Age of Sigmar. Now the problem with that is the Age of Sigmar boards are going to get a ton more votes because there's only 4 boards. So you only have 4 options to choose from, and honestly, of those 4, 2 of them were good, one of them really good, and then the second one was pretty good. So really you only have 2 people getting votes on the Age of Sigmar side, to the point where they're getting they're just raking in the votes. Now, the reason why I'm like that, that shouldn't compute, because like I said, it's like a 4 times the weight that an Age of Sigmar vote carries versus a 40K vote, because there's it's spread out so much more. Now, so like I said, in the 40K realm, I took first. Now, overall, if he would have just had one overall favorite, no matter if it was 40K or Age of Sigmar, you take away your overall favorite in each category and you just make a one combined. So you still have your categories in each, but then you have one, what is your favorite board in the store today? If that would have been a category, I would have taken second. Because, like I said, there was an Age of Sigmar Skaven board there that was very well done, that I think probably would have still beat me out. Like I said, I took the best 40K board, but overall, I think I probably would have lost to him. But I don't know how close it would have been because of the way that he did the scoring. I don't know. So what ended up happening is that Skaven board did take first. But it had he tried to say with an outstanding 88 votes or something like that. It's like there wasn't that many people even there. There's a decent amount of people. There definitely wasn't 88 people that voted. But because they only had 4 options to choose from, and he tallied every category, it's obvious. He had a huge margin of votes, because then second place, I actually tied for second place overall against the other Age of Sigmar board, which was pretty good. But the manager, he is the tiebreaker vote, and he decided to go with the Age of Sigmar board. Do I think that was right? Of course not. Of course I would think I deserved second, right? But actually, objectively looking at it, or not objectively, subjectively, trying to look at the 2 boards, I feel like I had the better board and the better army altogether. But in the end, I couldn't really care because, here's the other thing that kind of throws a red flag up in the air is, even though that was the second place Age of Sigmar board, the other one that was pretty good, it had won no other awards in its category. And you could say that's because, it wasn't a first army and it wasn't a young blood, so that went to the only entry that was there for that. And then the other categories all went to that scaling board I was talking about. So it won everything else. And then this guy hadn't won anything, but then he won second place overall. Now, the only thing with that is he also got there kind of late, so he missed out on some votes. I honestly think that he should have gotten Best Painted as far as Age of Sigmar go, because he had some Bretonians that he brought that were pretty cool looking. They weren't the best I've seen though, like by far. Like his skin tones, there was like very little shading and stuff. I mean, but like his cloth work and stuff and the colors that he used were very vibrant, very cool. It was mostly like just a cavalry army. So that was really cool and everything. And my kids, my daughter really liked. He had a lady on the unicorn model, which my daughter was all about. But yeah, like overall, like I just yeah, I think he should have won Best Painted probably for Age of Sigmar, because even the scaling board was a pretty standard paint scheme, but the board was really awesome. But yeah, so that's kind of where it kind of gets iffy. So anyway, the manager gave him the tiebreaker, which, like I said, I was bummed and upset kind of, because this happened last year where I tied for, I think it was Best Scene or Best Theme, one of those two, and he gave it to the other person. So twice now I've lost the tiebreaker to the manager. However, last year I would say I was a little bit more upset because I had, like, at that point, the person that won had already won, like, a bunch of other categories, so it's kind of like, why not spread the love a little bit and send it over my way? But this year, it's like he took that kind of complaint or whatever you want to say that I had and gave the tiebreaker to the other person who had not won anything. I had already won Best Theme and Best Scene, so he's like, well, I'll still give him a third place medal and whatever, and this guy who hadn't won anything can take second place overall. I'm not sure if that's what he thought, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, whatever, that's fine. Like, I already had won 2 categories. I was legit going with the hopes of winning either theme or scene. Like, that was my biggest, expectation or whatever that I was hoping for. My best outcome that I could have hoped for was to win one of those 2 categories, and I ended up winning both. So in my book, that was a win. Like, mission accomplished. I really just wanted to come and participate with the swag. If I won anything, I would have preferred those 2. And sure enough, I won one of both. So that was cool. And then to top it off, I tied second overall against 2 Age of Sigmar boards where their votes counted like 4 times. I'm not even not sure if my math is probably wrong. They probably counted more than that, because you have to factor in that there was 4 of them, but only 2 of them that were getting votes, and then ours were split up against 13. So I don't know the equations and whatever, but at the end of the day, their votes definitely weighed a lot more. So for me to be able to tie against somebody whose votes counted more than a vote for mine, that's pretty impressive, I think, myself. So in the end, it was another exciting, successful, whatever you call it. Got to see some cool armies, cool boards. Got to see what people are doing. People got to see me and interact and talk and figure out maybe ways that they can change things on their boards or ways to accomplish things that I was able to do. And we'll see, maybe some people might start to try to incorporate that into their boards next year or not. I don't know. So, but I did hear a few things, a few people. There was actually 2 people that had never participated. One won Best Painted, and the other won Monsters and Machines or something. But both said they probably won't participate again, mostly because of the scoring situation, because it is so all over the board. As we know in the past, the way the score or the voting went this time was, you can anyone that participates gets free votes. Like, you get your free tally, so you get to go vote. Obviously, you only get to vote once. So anyone that participates gets to vote. And then if anybody else wants to vote, then they have to purchase something, and then they can get a vote. So that's a way to kind of help mitigate, like, anybody just coming in and just trying to vote and up the votes. however, like you could buy a pot of paint or whatever the cheapest thing is, and now you can vote, which isn't crazy, but it is what it is. So, yeah. So then what you would see is a lot of people bring friends and family and people that are more local, could bring in to really try to buff up their vote. So then next thing you know, it's like, how did that board and that army win? How did they get the most votes? It's like, well, because they brought in the most people. So that's where it's not a very I guess fair way of doing it. I feel like I didn't see that as much this year. Like at most people would have like a friend or their spouse with them, but there wasn't like a ton of groups. Like I've seen in the past. There was one year I actually didn't get to participate because I was actually out of the country, and just following along, there was a huge controversy. There was some a friend of some of the people with Spiky Bits had came, because I think that Games Workshop is like their closest local one, or at least the one they decided to go to this year. Because I think there's a few that are kind of, but I think that store is actually the closest one to them. But anyway, they decided to go and enter, and I think their buddy lost in a tiebreaker for third. And then they wrote a whole article about it, and it was kind of a big deal, or whatever else, and then it became like this whole like kind of something that everybody's kind of known for the most part, that it can be a popularity contest. Like whoever has the most friends to come in to vote is the one who wins. So anyway, all right, well, that's just the recap, my attempts at talking about it, my attempts at coherent thought on it. Again, it is what it is. It's a marketing tool to get people in the door. It's really what Armies on Parade is. Yes, it is showcase the hobby and what people are doing, but it is kind of a big event to get people in their stores and to get them to be looking around like, you know what, that's cool, I want to do that, I'm already here, let me buy that. So, but I find it fun to see other people's armies and what they're doing, to meet people, to, again, like I said, interact, share ideas, share thoughts, and just have a good time. For sure, it was a good time. And so if I'm able to, if I'm around or I'm doing whatever, I will definitely be preparing for next year. I've got a lot of things coming up, so I'm really trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Just because with Nova, I want to have a good board for Nova, a good scene with my Star Commanders. I've also talked with a buddy of mine, and there's a few other people we're trying to get. He has a Red Scorpions army, and I have the Coherent. We thought about maybe we could make like a 4-person, like we each have our board, but when you put them on the table together, they make one big like Badab War scene. That would be pretty cool. I don't know how people would necessarily judge that, because it's all whatever. It might be just like a big 4-way tie or whatever, but I just think that would be a really fun thing to do, just to have like this big. I mean, essentially then we'd have a 4x4 section of a Badab War scene between 4 different chapters, which I think would be cool, because there is one person in our area that has a Lamenter's army, and I don't know of anybody else that has a trader style army, but I don't know, we can check that out. So but yeah, alright, well, thanks for watching. Check out the rest of the channel, check out the Facebook page, like, subscribe, share, all of that, and until next time.